Hey everybody, thanks for coming by. Today I'm going to be covering a session that had a lot of requests to do a deep dive. And that session is the redesign of this Kingsman cyberarm using nothing but the human voice. That's right, every single sound effect in this video clip redesign has been done with my voice or my wife's voice. So if you haven't seen it on Twitter, uh, here it is raw with no effects. I've disabled all the effects. There is some pitching, but I'm going to leave the pitching and I'll talk about the process later. But first, let's just listen to the raw human voice. I mean, I love it as is. It's sort of Studio Ghibli kind of sounds going on there. Now let's hear it with some effects so you can hear what that sounds like and the final results. And then I'll do a deep dive into each part of the process in the tracks. So here's with processing human voices. I love it. I mean, what we can do these days with plugins in the box, it's outstanding. So I hope you like it too. And you can hear one of those plugins kept on glitching. So process, let's start there. I believe it's important to get a session that's prepped so you're not thinking about the creative process while you're working. You want to be able to do one or the other. So prepping the session with just these markers, naming it, processing the video on the story that's supposed to be told, what should be in focus, what's important to the end viewer and listener. That's critical stuff. Get that out of the way and prep it. So again, all these markers are ready. I know where they land. It's easy no matter where I am on the timeline to hit it. And on top of that, I grouped it into the storytelling of fingers, the finger pistons, the forearm pistons, the wheel around the elbow, and the arm pistons, which were larger, and the final hit, the ka-chunk. So I guess 5. What that helps me do is know which moment is huge, which moment is small, and how to make each one unique and discernible to the end viewer. So once I had that, I sort of landed on doing voices first, just performing take by take. And I guess I'll just dive right in with what that looks like. So we'll turn all these off and we'll listen to each track and I'll talk about the process as we go. So first things first, this is a little boring, but the transitions, if you hear these at pitch, it's pretty funny, honestly. Yes, just with some filtering and muting to create that effect. But then when you pitch it down, as I did, 3 octaves, 1 octave, you end up with this. And that's no plugins. That's just kind of cool as it is. That breathy stuff pitched that far down has that stuttery quality. The whoosh itself, I added Phase Mistress for some sci-fi quality crystallizer, which is, as you can tell, just like 10%. So it's a delay that trails off 200 down and adds width without reverb width. It's a subtle thing that helps with this slow down motion of proceeding into the hand itself to feel like you're sort of transporting out of regular time into this close-up spectacle of sorts. And then Pro Q3 to boost that bass, take out the human qualities of it and give a little presence without too much presence. Then on the other one, I'll go quick through the transitions because there's not too much special about these. This was more of a bendy sort of sound. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be Spec Ops doing the bulk of it, but I also have a pitch shifter. Pro Q, take out some human qualities of it. Spec Ops. That. So I just ended up wanting this bendy sound in it. The other part had plenty of tonal low quality in it. Then low aired, add some backs and lows. Black Hole to give it space. Black Hole is a heck of a reverb plugin. Highly recommended for anything super spacious. You can hear it here. And Pro C to just balance it out and bring it up. And then this one's sort of an effect that's just as you proceed through the arm, it adds this mechanical quality to it. And again, leaning heavily on Spec Ops, which I did quite a bit of. So yeah, taking out some of the more human qualities of the voice, leaving the subs, cutting out the human highs. Spec Ops. I'm just kind of riding that as it goes through, telling the story of proceeding through with REA pitch, ultimately doing very little, I think. I think I tried, but I didn't end up doing much. So that's the whoosh. That's not my favorite part, but I wanted to cover every bit of it. Let's get to the good stuff. The fingers. So again, each one of these human voice, I would just line up the lane, look at the take of each section, loop it, and record and perform sort of like I would Foley, but with the voice. So here's this one particular take. And I better get that at the preserved pitch. So that was shifted back in time. So that's just pitch. Now let's turn on the plugins. Whoop! Here we go. This is the goods. Pro G just to cut up some of the air noise, the AC, which I left on because I was just lazy. Bit Crush to give it that mechanical, less realistic quality, sampled robot-esque. Spec Ops. And this is the first instance of a very important trick. This is envelope following. It's built into things like multipass and Spec Ops, which is great in any DAW, but Reaper itself can easily do this however you want, using parameter modulation, which I guess I could demonstrate. In fact, I will. So first things first, envelope following is taking the signal that's coming in and using it to generate an envelope as it comes in to drive any parameter you want using this little noodle cable right here. In this case, pitch shift. As it gets signal, it's going to increase the pitch according to this knob and the amp that I have assigned. So I'll demonstrate that real quick. So you can see it sliding based on the volume. And if I take the amp down to 0, it will do nothing. That adds so much character and it makes it feel alive. This is a really important trick on sci-fi design. Input following to drive parameters for extra modulation, make it feel more alive, vibrant, interesting, and have character. So what if, you don't have a plugin that does that? I'll dig into that later. I guess I could. Yeah, I'll dig into it later. There's an instance later. All right, multipass as the final post effect, and it's mostly for this chorus, but you can also see some multiband trance gates, which add this choppy quality, a little distortion. Might have gone heavy-handed on that chorus. And generally, what I do here is find a formula like this that worked on one. I just throw plugins on it until it sounded good, swapping out for whatever fit, and then apply that to the other in that group. So I would find a group recipe that's sort of shared but tweaked, so they sound similar but different in each section, which also helps each one sound distinct from the others. So as you can see here again, bit crush, different frequency though. Pitch shifter, I'm doing, what's that? Input following. So I'll demonstrate on this one. Well, that bit crusher is much more heavy-handed, but you can still hear the pitch shifting. Now, if you can't hear it, I'm going to go ahead and turn it up ridiculous. Oh, do I have that? Oh, I actually have that on the envelope, on the LFO. So I use the LFO for that, but you could also, what's pretty cool in this tool, click it and assign it, drag it. So now I'm using both, which is pretty fun. So now it's getting a little too drastic, but you can see what's assigned to it. So LFO and envelope. Pro G, just gating out the noises, making it sound a little more mechanical. Spec Ops, another pitch shifter. It's also got this smeary spectral quality to it, makes it much more sci-fi. Metal Flanger going crazy, super high rate, high feedback. Adds this choppy LFO quality to it. It's just a good trick to have in the toolbox. And finally, one more gate to get rid of the cuts. Good gapper makes it feel a little more mechanical and harsh on the ins and outs. And I imagine you're going to see similar plugins that worked on this. This one has one different thing to sound a little unique, which is the Sandman Pro delay. And a gate to chop it up. And OTT for the clacks. I ended up taking off the crystallizer because it felt a little heavy-handed, but it's kind of cool. It's fun to mess with. So I'm going to leave that on, turn down that recycle, get rid of that resonant takeoff. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. Let's say I want these to pitch up as it gets a hit. So you just tweak the parameter you want in Reaper, parameter modulation link, audio control. Now it's getting signal from the channel, sending it to the parameter modulation in whatever I had just touched. It's that easy, which is pretty outstanding. So then you usually do something like this and get that to this bass pitch or the pitch you want and adjust the strength. Overdo it, dial it in. So now I've got extra input modulation going directly to whatever parameter I want. In this case, a little pitch modulation to keep it more interesting, sound a little more mechanical. You'll get that theme here. I'll stop saying it. This ka-chunk, I ended up going a little bit different with. I left Effectrix on in a pattern that was almost unpredictable when it was going to occur, which gives it this really sort of choppy, odd process quality that was like a happy accident kind of thing. And again, OTT, sculpting like crazy. In fact, I'll show off how much I love OTT right now. So very simply, by reducing the lows and the mids, this thing sounds sort of high and it fits the hand. But if I wanted to say make it huge, that easy. This tool is incredible at harsh, fast sculpting. I'm going to go ahead and just tweak it back so you can see how it works. But it's easy to overdo this. This is for, generally I use it for fast, harsh, aggressive modern design because it's so easy to overdo it. But it's quick to dial in for this kind of a sound. Not bad. Okay, and we're back. Some more clacks. Cool. Now you'll notice it's similar to the last set, but I added a Foreman filter. Again, this makes this one sound different from the previous set of chunks. So find your recipe, alter it a little bit alter the ingredients a little bit for each piece of the group. Probably overdid this one a little bit. And what's cool on Pro Q3, if you overdo it, you can just scale that back and fix it without having to adjust a bunch of stuff. So that got that resonant high quality to it. Then I grouped all these snaps together, and you're going to hear some clicky clacky mouth noises. And that's not, oh, that is at pitch. Actually, if I preserve pitch, it probably sounds different. Not terribly. So yeah, just that kind of a sound run through a flanger and Saturn. And the flanger just gave it a little extra processing to stand out of the mix. And Saturn probably just cut some lows and cut some mids and added that warm tape. That's the typical one. This dynamics knob is overlooked. Well, I don't know. I overlooked it, I should say. I overlooked it for a long time. It's really this fantastic way of transient focus or sustained focus. So if I want it more clacky, I can just dial it right here. But if I want to get that sustain back, excellent sustain transient control within the one knob in the tool. So don't overlook that. Don't be like me. It's a useful tool. That flanger is done. And then my lovely wife's voice. I got to hear that soloed. Okay, that's not raw. That's pitched. But here it is at pitch. So she's rolling her tongue, doing some flutter effect, and it's super cool. Then I pitched it up because it felt more along line with the speed of the movement. Already, that's cool sound. Human voice. Yeah, don't waste it. Gated out the noise of the room and some things to make it, again, harsh and mechanical. This time, vocal synth. This element needed to stand out and be unique. Everything else was too blendy, so I used a new plugin. This is a very powerful plugin. If you want certain things to sound the same, it definitely puts sounds in a box for each thing you trigger here, but it's a useful mechanical robotic quality. So here's that. Probably overdid that. Let's say I wanted a little motion. We can blend in some ring mod. Now let's say I wanted to control that with, what do you think? Yeah, that's right. You know what? Let's see if that actually allows me to do that. parameter, modulation, boom, 1, 2. Bringing that mix down. All right, which is absurd, but if you dial it in, instant interest. Do this all the time. It's wonderful stuff. So that's the fingers, and I've changed it, but let's get on to the finger pistons. This is going to be similar stuff. This right here is definitely pitched. And always, not always directly in the microphone, sometimes off, not just for plosives, but for a different quality of recording. So I'll undo that to get them back at 22. Cool. So now they're pitched. Multipass was the trick here again. Pitch shifter on an LFO to get that motion. That's all it really needed. There's transient shapers in here as well. It's nice on a multi-band level because it allows you to do just attack or sustain per band, which actually does a remarkable amount of cleaning up on a busy signal like a voice or just something that's steady, really steady noise, because it allows those little bits to stick out more instead of being sustained. But that pitch shifter is doing the heavy lifting. Yeah, it's kind of boring without it. And I didn't do input modulation envelope following on all of them because it just sort of got too samey. So some of them were LFO driven, which also felt mechanical and fitting. All right. It's just crazy. I love it. Okay, crystallizer. I think I might be right in this pitch. Yeah, I sure am. On an envelope this time. I wanted to draw it in. I didn't want something random. I knew what I wanted. So that's as simple as moving it. Parameter, show track envelope, drawing in your points, or writing it on a fader. I'll enable that. Alrighty. Pretty sci-fi, but you can still hear the human in it. So I wanted to get that out. So vocal synth. Probably a little heavy-handed on the chorus. I'm going to say that's heavy-handed on the chorus. Then Pro G again. Choppy, getting rid of the noise. Pitch shifting, magic. So much character. OTT, sculpting, fast. Pro Q. This was just too resonant. Oh, I'll just click them off real quick. Felt too big in that area. I think I wanted the tonal transient more up here. So it was like, for some reason that didn't quite pitch match. I probably should have just pitch adjusted it or something. But, whatever works, works. Get in the flow. All right, just more pistons. I think you're probably going to see more of similar recipes. Delay tape. This one had some, what would you say, analog type echo to it. Oh, look at that. This demo is not even allowing signal through. I'll have to figure that out later. Thanks, Arturia. All right, vocal synth. Similar recipe. I like that one a lot. That's the distortion, as I recall, really giving it that flavor. with that high-pitched tone. Yeah, that made a big difference. Pro G, just to chop it up. Get rid of that noise. And I'm pretty sure these are going to be similar. You know, certain parts anyway. All right, what was this? Ah, yes. High-pitched fun. Spec Ops. So this, how do I say this? Every pitch shift sounds different. None of them are the same. You can't just open one up and expect the same results. You know, they all have different qualities, different textures. And that's all we do is listen to each plugin, make a mental bank of it, and know when to pull out that pitch shifter. This one sounds sort of spectral, odd, and almost format shifted, spectral shifted in the way it processes, which sounded perfectly whirry and buzzy for this. And it blended perfectly in the mix. OTT made that possible. That's too much mids, so you can just quickly. Too harsh. Pretty good. Too big. Just about right. See how fast that is to dial in the tonal quality with OTT? I just love it. Okay, clacks. That's more of a pull-in, sucking sound with your mouth. I think that's not at pitch, but you get the idea. Okay, vocal synth. In fact, I think I would have liked, now that I hear it, like, let's just say you want this to be a little different. Well, we're going to do it. We're going to use the input to change the pitch just a little bit. Oops. Well, I'll figure that out later. OTT really adds this aggressive upfront quality, bringing up the quiet sounds, turning down the loud sounds, just squashing the dynamic range. And that mixed together, which I've sort of probably made a mess of, finger pistons. Okay, the wheel, which is remarkably simple and effective, and I kind of love it. So the wheel raw is probably the funniest human sounds. And in there you can hear this sort of bad edit. Again, all bad edits aren't bad edits. It just sounds mechanical and off. This isn't like voice dialogue editing. Sometimes in sound design, you need a gap, a hard gap, to make that sort of stutter edit or draw interest or come in super sharp, you know. It's not always bad. So first one, this is my wife rolling her R's, which I'm jealous of because I can't do. So that's for the large wheel, and this is the smaller wheel. Tracks the movement of each one. And with effects, just crazy what you can do. I love it. Spec Ops. Now that's super quiet. Let's turn the gain up. Okay, I'm going to just leave OTT on then. That's quiet. I'm gonna turn it way up so you can hear it at least. So that adds this stuttery kind of spectral quality against Spec Ops, not a surprise. Pitch shifter being modulated, LFO. I think, yep, I'm also using envelope, so it's doing both. And then Saturn finally. Just wonderful stuff. And here is the small one. Again, similar recipe as the other parts of the wheel to be congruent within each section. You can see it's basically a copied and pasted version, but each one's going to have different settings. So if we compare them, that's pretty similar. The multipass, pretty similar. Pretty similar stuff. Just slight differences. Shuffled it to make it different. Okay, we're on to arm pistons. This was the biggest section, so I did something on the master that's pretty important to demonstrate. So I opened up with Pro MB and Subsynth. Subsynth generally reserved for adding a bunch of lows to a single asset, not usually on a bus for me. But for this particular effect, it worked fantastic. So if you watch this while it plays, the camera starts very close and then moves out of these arms. And I wanted them to sound huge when the camera's right up in there, so you feel like you're in the arm, and then duck it back. So that's what that looks like. Oh, it's because it wasn't on. So I'm dialing it in with an envelope to make it sound big and upfront at first, and then pulling it back at distance to get you back into the regular space as if you're the viewer, not in the arm. Cool little trick. Fab filter Pro MB to boost the lows, but make sure they don't get out of control. And it missed the air. My voice just couldn't get enough hiss for piston like kapsh. And I can't produce it. So I made it, because that's what we do. We make things. We make magic. And let's hear that heavy piston center. Notice the pitch and the performance, like that sort of following is what makes it cool. If I was just like lame, that's why the voice is so great. All right, let's turn on some plugins. Now this has a different recipe. It's more aggressive. It's got some distortion and some frequency shifting and different plugins. So let's look at them. Fault for the frequency shifter gets that. You can hear that Star Wars droid ring mod effect. Cool effect to just add a sci-fi element to something, but it's not crazy overdone here. Indent, nice, aggressive, soft clipper, very digital, very harsh. Anything mechanical, anything that needs to punch really bad, there's a good chance for that. I don't remember the biome of what I used for this. Looks like choruses in Triad. Pretty nice tool. It's biome multiband. If you can't tell, I really like multiband processors. And this one isn't doing too much except for the chorus and almost a Spec Ops quality spectral washiness to it to make it less human. Gating it, and OTT. So let's say, you know what? It wasn't big enough. I want it bigger. I can almost guarantee without even listening that this is going to do that. But maybe I want it thinner just to be that element. I mean, how awesome is that? Go get OTT. It's free. Did I mention it's free? You should all have OTT. Everybody should have OTT. More OTT. Don't overdo it. Learn to dial it in. All right, piston right. You saw the recipes about the same, except for crystallizer was in there. So these are going to have the same sort of effect, but let's hear it. All right, fault. Not doing too much. Did I have it on? Yeah, wasn't doing too much at all. Similar clipping, soft clip, being driven by the input follower, triad, washiness, crystallizer. That's rad. Crystallizer is great, not just as a full wet, but adding in a pitched element that plays alongside it. So in this case, it's adding reverse at 1500 pitch up, octave in 3 cents, with the recycle that just makes it tail out a little bit while adding that high pitched whir. So really, I could take OTT. Oh, I didn't copy it. Now gate it. Now it's really squashed. Pro Q3 just to add some more bass. Take out, there was some quality here I didn't like. I think a resonance that felt ill-fitting. Yeah, it didn't feel as hollow as a piston, so I hollowed out the mids. So that gives it a little more piston feel. Then pitch with a little bit to add some sub lows. And notice it's the similar trick as the highs, but with lows. Just a little blend, barely delayed with a high recycle, which adds that resonant because it's at such a short delay. That's going to add a self-resonating quality. And then more pistons, probably doing the same thing. Yeah, look at that. Copied, pasted, tweaked with different levels of each thing. No surprise there. I believe this is going to be, yep, it's about similar. And this small piston, same stuff. So it's all the same plugins. I'll play them, I'll play this set before and after. Okay, now let's hear those with the plugins. Cool. And the final ka-chunk. We made it. We're here. People love this meaty ka-chunk, and honestly, it's better than some ka-chunks I have recorded. So don't neglect human ka-chunks when you're making something chunky. All right, let's dig in. That's just my voice. That's not even through plugins, except the master bus, which isn't too much. If we make that at pitch, the pitch and the edits make this. What else do you notice about it? That's right, bad edits. Harsh edits with no fades add that clack. They really do here. It's okay to have edits like this with stutters in them. Not every sound needs to be perfectly fluid and beautiful. I mean, listen, that's awesome. What a snap. That's how you get that snap. I guarantee if I take this and I draw this back and I just blend these things instead, and I just blend this out, this is going to not have the, yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't have that like, that thing you couldn't even produce vocally. That's snappy as hell. That's how you get snap. Okay. I had some stuff on the bus. Oh yeah, subsynth and OTT. No surprises. No alarms, no surprises. This adds that self-resonating quality. It's just that delay trick. You know, you get a short delay with a resonant feedback. It's going to oscillate at that frequency as it resonates. Washy quality with triad. Whoa, that's huge. Triad going large. Okay, I can get that one off. I don't know why that's so big. That's hilarious. That was weird. Okay. And the only difference was it also had a gate, but it won't let me toggle it. That's weird. Biome acting funky while I'm streaming. All right. Almost there. Still with me? Great. Well, these are tracks I didn't even use that I didn't delete. This is the sloppiness. Shame on me. Here is one more ka-chunk. That's already pretty good as it is. But Vocal Synth made it more mechanical and OTT made it super full. So you could take some of that back, dial it in. Instead, we want it to stutter. You know what? I like that stutter. Let's go ahead and draw that in. Oh no, it's gonna crash. Ah! I got too wild. But that is the process. It was logically getting everything in order, session prep, then getting the groups ready to tell the story, and then recipe building for each section, then copying and pasting that recipe once it fit with small alterations to help things blend and a few things pop out here and there for the layering, and then rinse and repeat for each group, finally going back and check the overall balance of everything. Deliberate use of OTT, of multipass, triad, spec ops, lots of multi-band processors, and lots of pitch input following. And I think that's the big takeaway, is the human voice mixed with envelope following and modulation character told a very interesting story just on its own. So never neglect those things, the human voice and parameter modulation, to help give character and make something more interesting. So I hope this injects something into your creative process. I hope you got something out of this and like the sounds. And I hope to see you back on my channel soon, and go make some sound effects.